Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast. I'm your host, Dan from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. This episode is brought to you by PCBWay. More on that a little bit later. I just want to jump right into some possibly good news. I'm being cautiously optimistic here, but it's been a couple of days now that I've been actually driving my Volvo. So I believe my car is now fixed. Now, I why I'm saying I'm being cautiously optimistic is because the transmission is still slipping between gears. Okay, so for those of you that didn't follow the whole story, just real quick, I have a 2001 Volvo V70. I changed out or the transmission let go on me. It's been a couple months now, and I bought a used transmission from a salvage yard for $800 Canadian plus tax. Let's say about $900. Put it in, and then that transmission was faulty, so I had to put in a second one. Anyways, so right now I have been driving the car, which is crazy because this is a car that I've spent hundreds of hours underneath in the last couple months. But the transmission is still slipping a little bit, but that is possibly due to adaptations. My car specifically has wear compensation programming in the transmission control module, and that is causing it to test different fluid pressures, different solenoid sort of orders in order to make really smooth shifting. So it is still slipping a little bit, but I do believe it is still learning. Here's hoping, because the alternative is it needs another transmission, which I'm not into. But there's a really cool thing, and I want to explain this to you because most of the electronics enthusiasts that are listening will kind of have an idea of how this works. All right. So first things first, you have a shaft that is spun by the engine, okay, and then you've got a shaft that spins at at a speed, let's just say through a gear reduction of the front wheels, but basically it spins when the front wheels spin. Both of these shafts are the speed is taken by speed sensors. So there are internal speed sensors, and the way it determines the speed is it's a tooth to wheel, or actually it's actually the teeth on the gear is picked up by a Hall effect sensor. So electronics enthusiasts might know a Hall effect sensor because you can actually buy these in discrete components. It's basically a sensor. You'll typically give it VCC and ground. Typically they run around 5 volts in automotive applications. And basically, when something, changes, there's 2 different ways. There's some that are analog. They can measure distance from a magnet to the sensor. And there's others that are just on-off. They'll sort of bring back, send back a signal of just on-off, on-off, on-off. So pulses, basically. The ones typically used in automotive, they actually have their own electromagnet, and anything that enters the magnetic field sort of disrupts the magnetic field. It is read by the sensor, and the sensor sends you back pulses. So anyways, the speed of the shaft turned by the engine is read by the transmission control module. It's a microcomputer. Actually, my Volvo is a 2001, so very likely an Arduino will be orders of magnitude faster, more processing power than the transmission control module in my car. And then the shaft that is driven by the wheels is also read the same way. So both those signals are read. And then the transmission control module will select a gear, but it will pulse. It'll use a PWM signal to pulse a solenoid to reduce or increase the hydraulic pressure of the gear shifting. This is an automatic transmission. And it will test to see how harshly the acceleration or the deceleration of the shaft that represents the spinning of the wheels on the car engages. And then on the next shift, it will try something different. It'll increase the pressure or decrease the pressure. Now, that's fairly simple. I do believe, like, if you give me enough time, I could devise, a really simple, like, Arduino sketch to do this, to test until we get a certain acceleration of the shafts. However, in an automotive application, automotive electronics is pretty crazy, because if you think about it, if your car is going very slightly uphill, then you're going to need more pressure to engage the gears. Like you have more load, you have more resistance. If you're going steeper uphill, it'll take more resistance, and steeper and steeper and steeper. And you can do that in the other direction. You can be going downhill. You'll need a lot less pressure to have the same sort of smoothness of engagement. And the other direction is true as well. The engine can have different power inputs. And so you can make basically a heat map of all the combinations of how much load is, like how much resistance the car is giving you, and how much power the driver is commanding. And, there's like infinite possibilities. And so when I'm just cruising, like I went to work on Tuesday. Right now it is Wednesday as I'm recording this. So I was at work on Tuesday, and the transmission did not shift poorly. But today I went to the PO box to pick up a package, and it shifted really poorly. And the reason is, it's possible that the transmission control module did not ever see, since I replaced the transmission, that specific combination of engine power and load on the wheels. Like maybe we're going uphill or downhill or whatever. So because of that, I'm not ready to say that the car is fixed, but it is looking pretty good at the moment. So hopefully I'll be able to get on with my life, which is great, because seriously, this car has been weighing on me more than absolutely anything else. And if you're curious, I'm up to between $1,700 and $1,800 US on just parts for this car. Just the parts, no labor. And that doesn't even count my new boss towed my car home from the college for me for free. So that's another $200 savings, more or less. And the transmission I bought was used, but my old man had to, he picked me up in his pickup truck. We went down actually quite a distance from the town to pick up this transmission, bring it back home. And so he refused to let me pay for gas. And then when that transmission was bad, he picked me up again. And I took the transmission out, and we went back to that place, and they gave me another one, and I drove back, and he refused to, let me pay for gas. And so, yeah, between $1,700 and $1,800 Canadian is just in parts what I spent on this car. And the reason it's been, I'll tell you how heavy it's been weighing on me. Last week, I started the car up and started to drive it, and there was a massive problem. And it was hard to determine if the engine had a problem or the transmission had a problem, but I presumed the transmission had a problem. This is the second new transmission. Because it was running like a bag of crap. Like it wouldn't shift properly. It was doing all sorts of things. And there even was a code in the computer for shifting wrong, because there's a little message on my dash that said transmission service required. Come to find out, the engine was misfiring, it's not as obvious as you think, because it's a 5-cylinder engine. those engines don't run like they run smooth on 5 and 4 cylinders. So yeah, so I had to buy more parts, replace a bad ignition coil, and then took the car for a road test. All this to say, I think the car might be fixed. And I don't believe in any deities at all, but I'm hoping to whoever I can hope to, maybe the transistor gods out there, please let the damn car live through the winter. If it needs to break down, then it can break down in the spring, but not until then, because this is insane. Last week, I was so frustrated at that transmission possibly being bad again, that I was ready to go finance a car. Like, I've been looking at Acura MDXs, Honda Pilots. I need something a little bit more comfortable because I rely on my car for work now, and I've been driving my wife's Honda Fit, tiny little car, and it's been hurting my hip, the driving position, and it's super loud on the highway. And yeah, so I've been looking at used cars, 2006, 7, 8, those kinds of years. I went to see two of them, actually. I went to see a Honda Pilot, and I went to see an Acura MDX, and they were all rotten out. And they wanted so much money. I think the Pilot, they wanted over $6,000 for a car that was completely rotted out, completely done, but they, washed it, made it look pretty. So yeah, needless to say, I hope the Volvo transmission holds. If it's going to fail, I hope it holds all winter, and then I'll deal with it in the spring. Maybe I'll just take on more hours at the new job and see if I can save up for a used car and just shop. But yeah, this is a pain in the ass. All this to say, finally with the Volvo hopefully working, I'll be able to get out to that satellite facility, which is in Carp, which is to the west of Ottawa, quite a distance to the west, and go hang out with those folks and help them on their mission. I still need to make my video, but you guys can check out Gabe Emerson's Save It for Parts video, because it's phenomenal. Actually, I think he's done at least 2 now. But yeah, so hopefully I'll get out there. Hopefully I get a podcast or 2 out of it. So that's going to be pretty good, pretty much a load off. But, having my head in the automotive game instead of the electronics game, because I'm sure you guys noticed I haven't been releasing videos, and I was supposed to release videos. I'm trying not to stress myself about it. It just is what it is. Like, I need to get it done when I can get it done. But having my head in the automotive space has really got me to thinking that I have learned a lot of electronics related stuff. Like, I'm not a numpty as much as when I started this, for sure. My knowledge isn't quite at the level that I want it to be, but it's getting better. And I realize there's this whole kind of subsection of the automotive world, automotive repair world, where they program and modify engine control modules, ECMs or ECUs, as maybe some older school people know them, the engine computers and body computers and stuff like that. So there's a spec. I don't know how to introduce this topic, but there is a spec that specifies that the newer computers put in cars since 1996 or so by law, you have to be able to reprogram the flash memory on it, the EEPROM, the electronically erasable programmable read-only memory. So the EEPROM, there has to be parameters that you can modify, and this is all based on emissions and pollution, so that manufacturers can do software updates to cars in order to lower their emissions, make the engines run better, update things that were maybe missed at the factory. But the cool thing is that because there has to be a section that's programmable, you can go in and modify parameters using, an OBD plug. Pretty much all modern cars have an OBD port by law, which means onboard diagnostic. It's I believe it's a 24 pin or 26 pin connector underneath the dash. I don't remember the number of pins. I just know they're all the same. But you can modify a lot of parameters using, something that plugs in this way. But inside of those engine control modules, there are just microcontrollers, and there's level shifters and memory and output drivers and input stages and filtering and all sorts of stuff. But there is microcontrollers not too dissimilar to the stuff that we have access to as hobbyists. A lot of these will use FPGAs. A lot of them will use stuff like ST micro processors, 32-bit microprocessors, dual and quad core processors. But inside of those boards, there are typically headers for like JTAG and serial communications directly to the chip. And even if there aren't, a lot of these engine control modules or transmission control modules or body control modules, no matter what, you can solder directly onto the pins of the microcontrollers, these tiny little wires, and then use a programmer to get access to the portions of the microcontroller that you typically can't address using an external connection. Let me give you an example so that we're all on the same page. I watch South Main Auto. It's a phenomenal YouTube channel. Eric O owns his own shop upstate New York, basically in the saltiest place you can drive a car. So cars corrode away to nothing. New York State has emissions laws, there's safety laws that include a emissions check. And a couple of weeks ago, he had a client that there was something wrong with the car, and it ended up of a failure of one of the output drivers, so like a big MOSFET or something, of a PCM, of the engine control module. And Eric was able to fix this customer's car by swapping in a new ECM. So he put in the new ECM and everything works fine. But this ECM, what it does is when it connects to the network, because all the modules talk to each other via CAN bus or K-line, but mostly CAN bus, it verifies with the other modules, and one of those modules probably being the security module. It says, here is the registered data I have in me. And one of those lines of data is the VIN, the vehicle identification number, the one that's stamped on the body, the one that's riveted to the dash, etc., and on the stickers. And the new ECM was taken from a salvage car. They don't make them new anymore. And so it has a different VIN. It has a different number in that memory space. And that is not something you can program by plugging into the data link cable. That is part of the ROM, not the EEPROM, not the erasable, portion. It's part of the read-only memory in this microcontroller. It's or in the memory of this microcontroller. That is only something that is programmed once and then saved to that board forever. And so what Eric did is he sent it out to another creator, another content creator. But this content creator is just like Eric is, YouTube's only his second job. His first job is he's an auto tech, but he also has learned how to program ECMs and PCMs. There is like software packages for this and programmers use for this. And basically the process is he opened up the PCM and he soldered leads onto these, like into this JTAG header or whatever header is on the inside, just traces or just test points on the PCB. And then he was able to access it directly to read the hex file that was on it, modify the parameters, he read the hex file on the old computer, the one that has something not working on it, and then he overwrote the new one's data with the old one's data. So as far as the new PCM was concerned, the new PCM was the old PCM, right? The programming was the same. And so now when Eric plugs it in, the car and the modules, they all have the same VIN number. And so now the customer can pass their state inspection. So that is something I really want to delve into. The fact that you can treat this as a hobby microcontroller. It's not quite that simple, but that is really cool to me, because I think I talked about it a couple podcasts ago. If I want to convert my Volvo V70 to manual, I have to reprogram the ECM and the central electronic module, the body control module, basically on a Volvo. I have to reprogram them, and it can be done by the DLC. However, it will cost me $700 American dollars, so nearly 1,000 Canadian dollars, in order to get someone to send me the file and the instructions that I need. So I would love to be able to do this kind of stuff myself. So I'm looking on AliExpress, and some programmers cost $100 and some cost $3,000 to do this automotive reprogramming. But I'm super interested in this. So probably during the long of winter, I'm going to delve into it. I'm going to start by buying a cable for my Volvo, which I can do programming, externally through the OBD port in case my transmission ever dies again. I need to convert to manual. But after that, though, I mean, the sky's the limit. I want to learn this kind of stuff, and it'll be a perfect tie-in for, my second channel, Dan Fixes Cars, where I'm going to eventually go into it. So, yeah, I'm pretty interested in that, and I hope that you guys come along with me for the journey. I do want to show you guys that there's kind of a lot of overlap between hobby electronics and modern automotive. So moving on, last week I had something super cool come into by the mail. But before that, let me just tell you about today's sponsor, PCBWay, since they send you PCBs by the mail. Look, you probably already know about PCBWay if you've been on my channel for a little while. You make yourself your own PCB designs. I love KiCad for this. Then you export as a Gerber, upload the Gerber files to PCBWay. As long as your PCBs are within 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, so roughly 4 inches by 4 inches, you get 5 PCBs for $5 plus shipping and handling. If you use the slow shipping and handling, it's actually quite reasonable cost. For a little bit more, you get pretty fast shipping. It takes like a week and a half here to Canada. And when I order stuff from the US, it takes, 2 weeks. So just to let you know, the quality of service you get at PCBWay is pretty good. Now, PCBWay does trust me to say whatever I want about their service. So I will tell you that they do offer great PCBs. But I will also say that when you're ordering your boards, always bring up the quantity in your cart until the price goes up. Most of the time, I get 10 PCBs for $5, and if my PCB is smaller than 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, I can typically get like 15 or 20 for the exact same cost. So make sure you check out the link in the description. Even just clicking that link and going to see PCBWay's services does help the channel. So yeah, if you're interested in helping the channel, go check it out. if you do have PCBs that you've designed or that you found online, like my GitHub repo or in the shared projects section on PCBWay itself, then you can get them for very cheap and get good quality PCBs in your hands. All right, what came in the mail? Well, it's one of my, actually, I think it's the biggest purchase I have ever made for the YouTube channel, which is my Framework laptop. It finally came in. So they were having issues with the brand new AMD Ryzen chips that AMD released on the 13-inch laptop. They have Framework is a company that they made their own motherboards. And so they had to do their own firmware, and they actually had to do a partnership with AMD to work on the firmware. So there were manufacturing delays, but I finally have my laptop. I filmed the whole thing. The first unboxing, the assembly, for those who don't know, Framework is like, it goes hand in hand with Right to Repair. So you can either order a completed laptop or you can build your own, which is what I opted to do. And the reason I did that is because I want to buy my own Windows license. I don't want Windows 10. First of all, I don't want Windows 11. I also don't want Windows 10 Home. I want Windows 10 Pro. And typically that's an upsell on a laptop vendor's site. But in this case, because it's Framework and I decided to build my own, I didn't have to pay for Windows at all until I got it installed, and then I bought a license directly from Microsoft. I also got to pick my own RAM. I got to pick my own SSD. And these laptops have expansion modules. So they have like 4 sort of holders where you can choose whatever expansion module you want. Like I picked 2 USB-C, 1 USB-A, and an HDMI. And that has a lot to do with my work at the college. I need HDMI for the projectors. But you can pick Ethernet, more USB-As. You can pick all sorts of things, and you just add it all to your cart, and it ships to you. And what's also really cool is that they trust you to build your own laptop. So the laptop comes in pieces. You have to route your own cable from the screen to the motherboard. You have to install the bezel. You have to install your SSD, your RAM, your modules. You have to screw the keyboard down and, plug the keyboard ribbon cable. You have to do all that yourself, and then you can install your own operating system. So I chose Windows 10 Pro. I was considering Windows 11. They said if you go read their blurb on the subject, they built drivers for Windows 11, and they have not tested it on Windows 10. But I teach a Windows 10 course at the college, so I need Windows 10. So I figured I would just install Windows 10. If it doesn't work, then I'll upgrade to Windows 11 or downgrade, whatever, to Windows 11. But I installed Windows 10 Pro. I bought the license. I messed with it for a little bit. Oh yeah, I installed their driver package, which is intended for Windows 11, but everything still works fine. And my gimmick for the video, because I do want to make a video on this, is that I am producing the video. Obviously, I've recorded over half of it now, but I'm going to edit the whole video on the Framework laptop. So it's going to be a cool thing where you guys get to see sort of the whole process, the unboxing, the build, everything. And then I will film some more of it all assembled with the screen on and whatever. And I will continue to talk about my experiences of it. And then once I'm done talking and to shoot the little outro, all that is going into my editing software, and I will edit it. And if I find any snags during the editing, I'll have to film another segment and add it in. So it's a kind of like an interesting thing where the laptop is going to, work on itself, like its own video. And so I think it's really cool. So it's a 13-inch laptop. It's pretty small, but it is a premium laptop, so it's quite chunky, like heavy, while still remaining thin. It doesn't use any barrel jacks for charging. It uses USB-C charging, which is awesome. Oh, that's another thing. I didn't have to buy an overpriced charger. I selected the charger I wanted, and I bought it from Amazon. Didn't have to buy their power brick. So my requirements, because I'm out of the house for 8-9 hours at a time often, and sometimes, I do need my laptop and my phone for work. So I wanted a high-powered USB-C brick so I can charge my phone and my laptop, and that's what I bought. I don't have to carry, like a power supply. So yeah, I have all that, and on top of that, that means I can charge this laptop now with a USB power delivery power bank. So this is awesome. So yeah, I bought the Ryzen 7 version, so it's an AMD processor with integrated graphics, and I haven't done a benchmarking suite yet, which I will for the video. But the scary thing is, I am pretty sure that this laptop will outperform my desktop computer in the benchmarking suite. So we're going to see what that ends up. But yeah, it's probably going to get to the point where this laptop is more powerful than my desktop. And, my desktop is a Intel, i7 8086K. Yeah, I think it's an 8086. The special edition one that I actually won. I didn't have to pay for this CPU. I had to pay for the rest of the system. Hopefully, so far so good. The framework is working really well. Had I known my transmission would explode, I don't know if I would have spent, I think it was $1,800 on a laptop. But what I love about this concept is because it's fully modular. In 4 or 5 years, like I think I've owned my current laptop for 5-6 years, something like that. If this framework becomes too slow, if this framework laptop becomes too slow, you can take the motherboard out and put it in a 3D printed case, or put it in there's one company that makes a case for it, and it becomes a desktop computer. So you can use it as a network attached storage and a NAS. You can use it as a media center PC. Like right now, I have my main computer, which I'm recording this podcast on. However, my old computer that this one replaced is now my media center PC in my living room. So I have a computer connected to the TV. We don't pay for cable, but I have Amazon Prime. And my wife has Netflix, and so we just watch it on the PC tied to the living room TV. And on top of that, if we want to play video games, watch YouTube, or if I need to do work or whatever, I have a PC in the living room. And so the framework will become that. Also, if I want to replace the battery, I'll be able to replace the battery. If they make an upgraded battery, which I believe the battery in this laptop is more powerful than the first generation framework, I'll be able to upgrade just that. And I think this is now the 3rd generation of framework. People who have bought the 1st generation framework, every single motherboard they've created since, it just drops right into that chassis. So all that you need to do is upgrade. So you don't need to replace your screen, your battery, your modules, your RAM, your SSD. None of that needs to be replaced if it doesn't need to. You can just continuously upgrade your system. I think that's the coolest thing ever. There is nothing wrong with the screen, the charger, the SSD, the everything in my current laptop, the one I had before the framework, except that the CPU, the computer itself, and the motherboard are outdated, and I can't upgrade them. And on top of that, this laptop hardware is so bad it gets too hot in the little case, that it's now, my laptop is pretty much e-waste, which is pretty sad. So I'm really happy that, I bought a framework. Again, the $1,800 price tag is quite high, but I did buy the premium model instead of the Ryzen 5. I bought the Ryzen 7, so hopefully it'll last longer. But yeah, that's the goal. I love repairability. I love the fact that you can be eco-friendly without specifically being eco-friendly. You don't need to make massive changes to be eco-friendly. You just need to design something that's fixable, and you're already more eco-friendly than the alternatives. It's absolutely insane that this is a concept that people don't get, companies don't get. So yeah, if you're looking for a laptop, this is not a sponsored message, by the way. I just truly believe in the work that Framework is doing, and that's why I put my money where my mouth is. So if you're looking for a laptop, consider a Framework, because I think environmentally, plus the product is really nice, all aluminum chassis, and repairability. You can work on it yourself, which is pretty nuts all in its own. Oh, and I did forget to mention one thing too. I am going to release a full-length edit of the video. So that means when I do the unboxing, there'll be no cuts. When I do the building, there'll be no cuts. When I do the install of Windows 10, there will be no cuts. So yeah, if you want to see the whole process, which I sort of chat over a little bit, you'll have to go on to my Patreon, become a patron for, a month. You can leave after and watch it there, because I do owe my patrons quite a bit. The numbers are dwindling, and that's okay. I haven't been making as much content as I should be making. So you're going to have to go there to get the full length, unless there's a massive outcry to see the full length on the regular channel, but I doubt it. This is also a great time in the podcast to call out if you have any sort of makers, people in the tech space, software, hardware, people who do things with their hands, people who make their, give their point of view on certain things, and whether or not they have a YouTube channel doesn't really matter at all. But if you know someone interesting that would like to share their story on the podcast, have them reach out to me. It's been a little difficult these days to get some guests on for a couple of reasons. A little bit of a look behind the sauce. Right now, Zencastr, the software I use to record these podcasts went with a guest, are moving away from their free model. So that means I'm going to have to start paying monthly for the service, which means I'm not sure if I'm going to start paying monthly or if I'm just going to do meetings over Discord and Skype and record locally. Don't know how that's going to work. And the other reason is because there's a lot of stuff going on in the maker world at the moment. And that means that makers are very busy. Also, I do believe that advertising budgets are now coming out for sort of like the Christmas time. Just a little look behind the scenes here. But during December is when ad revenue is the highest, because people are more apt to spend money. And so a lot of creators that do YouTube to support themselves, they will take on sponsorships somewhere, September, October, and, sign a deal to release a video in December. So they're working right now on stuff that, supports their lifestyle. And so, yeah, it's just very hard to get someone to commit to come onto the podcast, which is totally fine. So if you know anyone that would be interested in being on the podcast as a guest, It doesn't matter if they have something to sell or they don't. I just want to talk to interesting people who make interesting things. Have them reach out to me because I reach out to tons of people, and especially the popular creators. I mean, they get thousands and thousands of emails per week. My emails slip in between those, and sometimes it takes 6 months for them to reply to me. So have them reach out to me, via Discord. I'm on a couple of popular Discords. You can find me on, Sion's Discord, on Big Clive's Discord, a couple of big Discords. I'm there, Simple Electronics. You can email me, simpleelectronicsyt@gmail.com. The YT stands for YouTube, but I just found out that recently that it means something else. Oops. Anyways, simpleelectronicsyt@gmail.com. Have them reach out to me. We're going to set a date and time, and we're going to record something. And it may not be the next one, but, I can record a couple in advance. That's not an issue. So as we just round out towards the end of the podcast, I guess I will, since I've already reflected on the last 2 weeks, what am I going to do these next 2 weeks? Well, first and foremost, I think I'm going to be trying to work a little bit less. I've been working pretty crazy hours. I wasn't supposed to be working, but I got this existential dread that I had to replace my car, possibly. So I've been working a lot to try to make some decent income so that I can buy, a 15 to 20-year-old car to replace my 23-year-old car at this point. So I'm going to try to work a little bit less so I can do a little bit more YouTube stuff, because I have a massive backlog of video ideas and executions that I really want to get going. And also with the Framework laptop, I am more inclined to write articles. And so I definitely want to go back to sort of the roots of the channel. What I've always envisioned the channel to be is a little bit of like learning content. And so I might write simple articles on simple electronic components and modules and how to use them, because that's sort of the bread and butter of the channel, so to speak. I have said quite often that I am sort of the most proud of my multimeter how-to video, but I was always sort of complaining about I was complaining about the fact that it didn't get a lot of views, but that is sort of changing recently. It is garnering some attention. I'll just pull up the analytics here. But in the last, right now, it's up to 21,000 views. And so although that is not a whole heck of a lot, that is way better than, let's say a third of a year ago. So let's say about a year and a third after it was published, it had 3,200 views. And then 100 days after that, so about a third of a year after that, it's now at 21,000. So people are watching it. They are appreciating it. And the comments that are coming on these videos are some of the best comments, the ones that find these videos and appreciate the simplicity and how much learning they get done through them. So I'll just share with you my sort of my best performing videos in the last 28 days, or actually last 48 hours, actually. So the number one is charging the drill battery without an official charger. That one has been, frankly, carrying the channel for quite a while now. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but that video has a real shot of hitting 1 million views, which is crazy because it is one of my most low effort videos. I literally just had to charge this battery. And so I went over quickly, how it works and, how to do it. So it's crazy, but it got, in the last 48 hours, it got 4,648 views. So that's a lot of views. Next one is how to turn an Arduino into a USB keyboard or mouse. That is the ATmega 32U4 video. It got 331 views in the last 48 hours, which is pretty decent. Next one is, should you buy an Amazon starter kit? It's the Elegoo kit. They sent me a kit, and they must be quite happy with the performance. It got 70,000 views so far. I gained almost 1,000 subscribers from that video, so that's pretty nice. Next one is the multimeter one. It got 278 views in the last 48 hours. And then getting started with the D1 Mini, 266 views. Cheapest stepper motor and how to use it. A step-by-step guide, which I thought was a pretty good pun. 201 views. And then how to use transistors in your project, 188 views. And so it's really like those like modules and how to use them. Those things are what are performing the best. And they're also the stuff I'm the most proud of, because it's really like educational content. So that kind of stuff is the stuff I want to work on the most. But I do want to get a couple of big videos done before the end of the year. So one of these videos is the roundup of the cheap Fluke multimeters. I've got 4 of them here that I want to compare. The problem with that one is, how do I communicate the differences between them? It's going to end up being sort of like a Project Farm video, which I'm not sure if my viewers are going to like it. Who knows? So there's that. The battery video. I have solar panels also sitting here doing nothing, which I have bought lumber for. And so I'm going to pop them outside and then run wire into here. So, I'm going to be busy in production mode, which it seems like I'm constantly trading sort of one busy for another. But it's just when I go to work at my new job, not the college, because college is out until at least next year. But when I go to the college, when I go to work, I get paid immediately. If I make YouTube videos in a couple of years, it might pay off, right? If I get enough views. So I do YouTube more as a passion and to keep up with you folks, the watchers out there. And, I do the work stuff really to pay the bills. So yeah, that'll be it for today. It is getting quite late. I still need to edit this. Thank you everyone for listening, and I will catch you on the next one. By the way, if you made it this far on whatever platform you're listening on, add some questions to the comments section, and if I don't secure a guest for next week, I will be answering your questions in that podcast. Thanks for listening.